The Devil's Horse has been around for many years and has withstood little changes from once it was first brought out. Because if something isn't broken, don't fix it. Generations of anglers have enjoyed this classic topwater lure, and a cult-like following in the southern parts of the United States has arose due to its unique action. The lure has a slow topwater slide across the surface that is aided by the prop on the nose and tail.
We have two different sizes. We have the 3/8 and the half. They're both pretty easy to throw. They cast really great, but you need to have the right equipment to fish them. You need about a 6-foot to 7-foot medium action pole, fast action with a soft tip. That's so whenever you get a bite, you can set the hook and it's not going to pull the treble hooks right out of the fish's mouth. I like to fish this thing with a fast reel, 7 to 8 to 1 gear ratio, because you're popping it slow. When you get a bite, it's pretty ferocious. They're going to take it, they're going to dive, and you need to really pick up some line, to set the hook and get them in the boat. Line is probably the most important part with this thing because of the spinners on the top and bottom. I recommend throwing it on a heavy monofilament line, 17 to 30 pound test, because this lure is what's known as a target casting lure. You're typically fishing this thing around wood, cover, lily pads, standing timber, grass, things you really can get snagged up in, you can break off. Monofilament's great because it floats, and it's great because it doesn't get hung up around these spinners. I recommend braided line as well if you're fishing really heavy cover, but braid has a tendency to get hooked around the spinners on the top and bottom, and it can cause you a lot of problems. Right now we're in Florida, which is where the Devil's Horse is probably the most famed at. Let's talk about how you work it now. You're gonna fish it just like you would a traditional popper. Just cast it out, let the rings dissipate from it.
What is that?
Popping it with slight twitches of the rod tip. You need to let the fish dictate how they want it. Sometimes cold front conditions, they just want it barely popped just to make a little bit of disturbance. Sometimes they're really aggressive. Work it hard, really get that bait moving and creating that bubble trail. There's one. Gosh.
It's made out of wood, which gives it a completely flat lay on the surface, unlike any other plastic topwater prop baits. It comes in 2 weight variations, but they're both in the same length. This gives the lure 2 different distinct body shapes that apply to differing situations. Most people believe the smaller size appeals to smaller fish and the bigger vice versa. But actually the larger size is better for windier conditions or when there's more chop on the surface. Because it's more buoyant and sits atop the water with a higher posture, you can work it more effectively during rough conditions. The color patterns are standards that have been in the Smithwick catalog for many, many years, and this is simply because they consistently catch fish.